Hello students, welcome to the discussion of the MCQs on vaccination. I take the first question. 4-year-old child was diagnosed as a case of Kawasaki disease. Intravenous immunoglobulin and aspirin was given and was followed on echocardiography, because you all know in Kawasaki disease the initial management is a single dose of intravenous immunoglobulin and aspirin is started in anti-inflammatory doses. On 21st day of illness, coronary artery aneurysm was noticed on echocardiography. So it means is, as you all know, Kawasaki disease has got three phases: acute phase, subacute phase and convalescent phase. So therefore there is coronary artery aneurysm which usually is seen in the subacute phase, and here also there is coronary artery aneurysm which is seen in the subacute phase. Vaccination advice given to this child will be, right. Now first of all we should look at the points. What is the important points you need to remember regarding the vaccination in Kawasaki disease? First you remember those points. Now if you see, when the child is given intravenous immunoglobulins, what we say is live vaccines, particularly live vaccines which includes MMR and varicella, they should not be given for the 11 months. They should not be given for the 11 months. Right? So if a child has received intravenous immunoglobulins, live vaccines, which I mean to say MMR and varicella, they should not be given for a period of 11 months in a case of Kawasaki disease. Second, if a child has got coronary artery aneurysm, that means child will be on the aspirin for a very long time. Child will be on the aspirin for a very long time, and maybe lifelong the child is on the aspirin, right? And whenever there is aspirin, there is a risk of the Ray's syndrome. There is a risk of the Ray's syndrome. And to prevent the occurrence of Ray's syndrome, child needs to be given influenza vaccination and the varicella vaccination. So in this question we have given is child has already received IVIG, that is one thing. So therefore MMR and varicella cannot be given for 11 months. Second, the child is on aspirin, so child needs to be given influenza vaccine annually and the varicella vaccine has to be given. Keep this in mind. Now we solve the MCQ. Now if you see in this MCQ, the first choice given, pneumococcal polysaccharide vaccine 23 at 5 years of age, and then every 5 years up to 20 years of age, not required at all as such, because this is not a high risk child as considering the pneumococcal. Moreover, the age is 4 years. If it would have been less than 2 years, we might have thought, but now there is no additional risk, so this is not at all required. Varicella vaccination to be given after convalescent phase is over? No, convalescent phase will be over in a period of 6 to 8 weeks, but the child has already received intravenous immunoglobulin, so you cannot give varicella vaccine for a period of 11 months. Right? Last, meningococcal vaccine should be given if not given previously. No as such indication for the meningococcal vaccine, but the C choice is absolutely right. Measles rubella vaccination should generally be avoided until 11 months after IVIG administration in a case of Kawasaki disease. Moving on to the question number 2. 5-year-old child, body weight 20 kgs, had first episode of nephrotic syndrome. Child is receiving prednisolone 40 mg per day for 4 weeks. Now you need to understand, child weight is 20 kg. Steroid being given is how much? Steroid given is 2 mg per kg per day. 2 mg per kg per day. Mother is worried about mumps, measles, rubella vaccination at 5 years of age. Advice given to mother is. So before solving the MCQ, let us basically understand that what are the guidelines to be followed regarding the vaccination if a child is on steroid therapy. If a child is on steroid therapy, what you need to remember is what is the dose, what is the duration, and what is the recommendation. If a child is on steroid more than 2 mg per kg per day or more than or equal to 20 mg per day for a duration of more than or equal to 2 weeks, you should not give live vaccines until after 4 weeks of stoppage of steroids. Until after 4 weeks of stoppage of steroids. That is the one criteria. Second, dose. This is the one I am saying. Second, I am saying dose is same as above, but the duration is less than 2 weeks. Duration is less than 2 weeks. Now, one can say you can give the live vaccines immediately after stopping the steroid, but preferably, there should be, you should wait for 2 weeks. You should wait for the 2 weeks, right? Third, if the dose is less as above, then live vaccines can be given simultaneously. Live vaccines can be given simultaneously, right? So this is general protocol which you need to remember regarding the vaccination for the live vaccines if a child is on steroid, because steroid causes a immunodeficiency state, right? And this I have taken from the Nelson. This is according to the Nelson guidelines I am giving you regarding Kawasaki, regarding all the questions here. Clear? So now if I put it here, what I mean to say, child is having 2 mg per kg per day of steroids. So the first thing is vaccine will be given as soon as the steroid dose is completed. No, our guidelines say no, this is not correct. Vaccine can be given simultaneously. No, vaccine will be given when the child is in remission. Now that is what can create the confusion. Or vaccine will be given 4 weeks after the steroid has been discontinued. If the child is in remission, mostly we switch over to the alternate day therapy. Alternate day therapy. And if in the alternate day therapy, you reduce the dose. And the dose, it is less than, for example, you will say the dose we reduce it to 1.5 milligram per kg per day, right? That is on alternate days. But still the child is 20 kgs. If you will count, that will come out to be 30 milligram on alternate days. So ideally speaking, your best answer should be vaccine should be given 4 weeks after this steroid has been discontinued. So that is the best possible answer which is here. Moving on to the question number 3. 12-year-old male has history of passing red colored urine in morning on awakening. On examination, there is anemia, thrombocytopenia and leukopenia. On flow cytometry, red blood cells are deficient in CD55 and CD59. By this time, you are already able to make a diagnosis. You are talking of a case of paroxysmal nocturnal hemoglobinuria. P and H. Each and everything is explained which is being given, right? So if you see here, red blood cells are deficient in CD55 and CD59. There is usually presence of pancytopenia which is given here, anemia, thrombocytopenia and leukopenia, and mostly the hemoglobinuria is nocturnal. Therefore, when the child awakens, the child passes red colored urine. Right? So this is a picture of PNH. Decision to start eculizumab was taken. Right? And eculizumab, you all know, is a C5 convertase inhibitor. That is the C5 convertase inhibitor. So that is what we have taken decision to start the eculizumab. Right? Before starting the eculizumab, it is recommended to immunize the patients with. Now what the thing is, in this PNH, it is the complement mediated damage to the RBCs. Complements are causing damage to the RBCs. So for the treatment you are giving is eculizumab. Definitive treatment is the bone marrow transplantation only, but you are giving here is the eculizumab. But if you give the complement C5 convertase inhibitor, there will be deficiency of the complement C5, C6, C7, C8, C9, which can increase the incidence of meningococcal infection. So therefore, before starting the eculizumab, what is recommended is, it is recommended to basically immunize the person with meningococcal vaccine. Meningococcal vaccine, right? So now moving on to the question number 4. 3-year-old child suffered from the Haemophilus influenzae B meningitis at 6 months of age. He had sensory neural hearing loss and cochlear implant is done now. The child is previously unimmunized from the pneumococcus. True regarding the pneumococcal vaccine in the child is. Before solving this question, let us discuss slightly about the pneumococcal vaccines. In the pneumococcal, there are two vaccines. One is the pneumococcal conjugate vaccines. One is the pneumococcal polysaccharide vaccines, which you say PPSV23, and pneumococcal conjugate vaccines are 7 and pneumococcal conjugate vaccine 13. Right. In certain high risks, and this high risk particularly includes what? This includes there is congenital heart disease, there is chronic lung disease, a child with a cochlear implant, diabetes mellitus. Some of the high risk. Second high risk is asplenia or hyposplenia. Right? And the third is particularly immunodeficient state, which can include your any particular disorder, for example, X-linked E-gamma globulinemia or Bruton. This can include common variable immunodeficiency, maybe Hodgkin's lymphoma. Wherever the child is on anti-cancer therapy, the child can be immunodeficient. Now, in all this, if the child is not previously immunized with pneumococcal, you are giving the vaccines. In the first category, what we say is, if the child is about 2 years of age, you need to give the pneumococcal conjugate vaccine 13. 2 doses are to be given at an interval of 8 weeks. And this is followed by a single dose of PPSV23 again after a period of 8 weeks. So first you will give 2 doses of pneumococcal conjugate vaccine at an interval of 8 weeks. Then you will wait for 8 weeks. Then you will give a single dose of PPSV23. Right. In asplenia or hyposplenia or immunodeficient, the same schedule needs to be followed. We are following the same schedule, that is 2 doses of pneumococcal conjugate vaccine plus single dose of PPSV23 plus you have to repeat a dose of PPSV23 after 5 years if the child is still less than 10 years of age. If the child is still less than 10 years of age, what I mean to say, 2 doses of PCV at an interval of 8 weeks. This is to be followed after 8 weeks, a dose of PPSV23, and after 5 years, if the child is still less than 10 years, you need to give a dose of PPSV23. Right? So that is in brief you need to remember. Now I apply this particularly to the question which I have asked. Now if you see here, 2 doses of pneumococcal conjugate vaccine with an interval of at least 8 weeks. No, it has to be repeated by a single dose of PPSV23. 2 doses of pneumococcal polysaccharide vaccine, not at all. We are saying 2 doses of pneumococcal conjugate vaccine at an interval of 8 weeks followed by 1 dose of PPSV23. This seems to be the right proportion here. Right? Last choice, 2 doses of PPSV23, not at all. Right? So this is what you need to remember regarding the vaccination in the case of cochlear implant, as there is a risk of the streptococcal pneumoniae infection. Question number 5. 3-year-old boy has history of recurrent pneumonia, lymphadenitis and osteomyelitis at multiple sites. So if you see, there is a so-called recurrent infections, pneumonia, lymphadenitis, osteomyelitis. Diagnosis was confirmed as a case of chronic granulomatous disease, CGD. And the diagnosis of chronic granulomatous disease is basically confirmed by the dihydrorhodamine assay. It is confirmed by the dihydrorhodamine assay, which confirms the diagnosis on flow cytometry. So diagnosis of chronic granulomatous disease was confirmed where there is deficiency of the enzyme NADPH oxidase. NADPH oxidase, which results in the defective phagocytic function. Defective phagocytic functions, right? Which of the following statements regarding vaccination in this child is true? What you need to remember is, in a case of chronic granulomatous disease, no additional vaccine is recommended. So additionally pneumococcal vaccine to be recommended? No, that is not true. Now the thing is, whether live viral vaccines are contraindicated, bacterial vaccines are contraindicated, or both are contraindicated, this is basically a defect in phagocytosis, and this NADPH oxidase is required for killing of bacteria. It is required for killing of bacteria. So what you need to understand is, live bacterial vaccines are contraindicated. That is the right choice. Live bacterial and viral is not contraindicated. No. Live viral vaccines are contraindicated. No. Only live bacterial vaccines are contraindicated. Right? All these questions I have taken from the different chapters of Nelson, and I presented like the vaccination questions. These are the 13 things you need to remember in the vaccination. Do remember to subscribe to the channel, like the videos. Thank you all for your support. Thanks a lot.